Okay.
Because Apple tells me it's 2:10. So we're going to jump in, make sure Kyle has time. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for sticking around today. We're so excited to have you all here. I am really excited that we have, before I go to there, I'm going to just say Kyle's session here is going to be pretty advanced. There is another session in room A that is, as Stacy says, maybe a little less advanced. So feel free to jump back and forth if you want. That's a nice thing. No one really notices if you're leaving the room. But you are certainly welcome to jump back and forth between the two of them. I am so excited to have Kyle here. I never actually get to sit in Kyle's session, so I'm really excited that it's in the room I'm hosting today. Kyle is a teacher in Omaha now, formerly was in St. Paul, and is just sort of a GIS genius when it comes to teaching kids with GIS. And I've learned so much from watching Kyle and what he does. So I'm going to let Kyle take it away. Feel free to put questions in the chat. We'll be keeping an eye on it. So take it away, Kyle. Thanks.
All right. Thank you so much. So yes, my name is Kyle Tredinnick. I am presently at Omaha Public Schools, the University of Nebraska, Omaha. And then myself and Kelly Swanson, whom a lot of you know, actually run our own geography materials publishing company. So you might have seen our names popping up quite a bit here. I've presented at this, I think, 4 years now. I missed last year. Unfortunately, I was in the Galapagos Islands, so had to take precedence over the GIS LIS day, unfortunately. But yes, just like Shauna said, usually my sessions, what I try and do are some more of the more complex things that you can do with ArcGIS online. And then I just kind of walk you through generally what you can do, give you some ideas of applications. But then I also try and do it in such a way that if you are relatively new to GIS, that is perfectly okay. So in the chat box, I posted a link that will take you, I'm going to do a share screen so that we can do this instead. All right. So I'm going to be kind of looking at two monitors here because I've got everything posted on one monitor. So I'm not ignoring you all. So yeah, when you go to the website, I've got a couple things going on today. So a couple of course materials that I'll reference throughout the day. But what I'm going to be generally doing today is walking you through how you can use some data, present it, and then make a dynamic display of it with storyboards, or not storyboards, dashboard. They've got all of these same things now. So operations dashboards. So I know Charlie had a session earlier about how to set up a survey 1, 2, 3 to be able to feed into a dashboard. But I'm going to be showing a different way that you can actually build a dashboard. So let me start here. So I've got the presentation materials. The PowerPoint that I'm going off of on the website is just linked here. Work for you presentation. That's me. That's the abstract that was built in. And so objectives. Basically what I'm going to try and do today, I'm going to actually start with this second one, is try and demystify some of the geospatial data visualization processes. A lot of these things at first glance can be kind of scary, but by breaking them down a little bit and actually showing you how you can actually do these, hopefully you'll see that it's not that complicated, to the point that I hope you'll actually be able to implement some of these processes in your own classrooms. So the two main things I'm going to be demonstrating today are what's called a table join, and then the operations dashboards. I have to make sure that I'm using the correct naming here. So what we're kind of doing is, or where this whole idea came from is I was trying to think of an idea when Matt first called me. Oh shoot, I think he called me back in like June asking if I'd be able to present here. And he specifically mentioned dashboards. And because this has kind of been the big thing, I'm actually going to scroll down here real quick. the dashboard that everyone has been seeing recently, all throughout the course of the COVID crisis, has been this one from Johns Hopkins University that's got the up-to-date. This is a very, very, very well done dashboard where they're able to bring in a lot of data, and you're able to view different bits of the data at different scales, and then they've got the sidebars and all that. So we're not going to be going this complicated today. But we're trying to get to the point where you can start building something like this so you can take geographic data and make it a lot more usable for students. So for today, I can go back real quick. So again, when Matt called me and he said, we want you to do dashboards, we want you to do this with GIS, LIS, and then we also want you to do this virtually. All right. The thing that came to mind the most was using the human development index. So if any of you are teaching AP human geography or in normal human geography, I'm sure that you deal with the HDI when you're talking about development, or even when you're talking about population geography. And so I wanted to try and do something with this because I knew that I could get a lot of data. And when you can get a lot of data, that's when you can start doing a lot more with these dashboards. So I literally just came and pulled off data from, this is the United Nations Development Program. They run the Human Development Index, and they are basically going through and keeping track of human development indicators from each country. And we've got heaps of data. This is just the Human Development Index by year. But the data that we're actually going to be playing with today is this. I was able to get the Human Development Index data broken down by different categories. So this is how, or these are the indicators that are actually used to calculate the overall Human Development Index. Generally, if you're not familiar with the Human Development Index, the higher the Human Development score or index score, generally the more developed the country is. Kind of the genius thing about how this is working is it's also able to factor in things like the Gender Development Index, because if a country is vastly prioritizing schooling for boys over girls, that will show up in here, and then that will affect their overall score. So I really like the Human Development Index as a way of just being able to look and compare different countries. So I've got this table, and the table is probably the hardest thing to set up from all of this. That being said, I have gone through on the course or not on the course website, I'm still stuck in teacher mode. On the presentation website, I have a CSV table here. So if you want to try and follow along while I'm going over this today, you're certainly able to. And so you can download this and it will show up as a CSV. I've got it open in Pages right now. You can also open it up in like Microsoft Excel. You can also, if I know a lot of you are coming from Google schools, you can throw it right into your Google Docs and use it out of that as well. But the main thing is I've got it formatted as a .csv, not a .xcel or whatever that is. So a couple things that I've got going on here is I've got the country, and I've got the country listed twice, and this will come into play here in just a minute. Why I have to have the country listed twice is the first one, or this first column, I'm going to use to get the country on my map. And then the second one is purely for the join that we're going to have to do. So that'll make more sense here in just a minute. So if you scroll down, you'll see some, like the Democratic Republic of the Congo is spelled out here, but here it's got more of a short form. The one that I think is kind of fascinating, how you can start even building in political geography, is to get to Macedonia. I actually have to go down to, where to go? Northern Macedonia. I had to change it. Depending on the layer you're using, they'll have different naming conventions. So to get it on the map, I have to have the country labeled as Macedonia. But then for the join, it'll have to be named North Macedonia. So with this, you can use these and then you can change out whatever data you want afterward. So that can be a fun activity where if you've got an activity in mind where you're looking at agriculture and you want the kids to go find different agricultural indicators, all you have to do is take out these columns and put in new columns. And as long as you keep these two categories the same, you'll be able to upload that data using the methods that I'm showing you today. So after the country names, we've got the Human Development Index, the average life expectancy for that country in years, the expected years of schooling for that country in years again, and then the actual, so the mean years of schooling that a typical student will actually undertake in that country in years, and then the gross national income per capita, which is based on 2011 numbers, and then the ranking. So how did I get the join names? So that is kind of an interesting bit of trial and error. And so this is why I would highly suggest that if you're doing an activity where you're trying to get different data in the columns, use these. Because some of the countries were really a pain in the neck to actually get working. It was kind of trial and error. I would type in Congo, comma, Democratic Republic of, that didn't work. Congo, DRC, that didn't work. And then I finally figured out I had to type out the name Democratic Republic of the Congo. And then these, the join ones, I'll get from the actual layer. So that being said, we can actually go through and I'll kind of walk you through this process. So whenever you're doing anything like this with a table join and your final product hopefully being something like this, this is what I'm hoping that we'll be able to accomplish here in the next 38 minutes, is you have to be very conscious of what your end game is going to be. And a lot of that is going to show up in how you set up the table. When I first tried this, I had forgotten to go through and make this column or format the gross national income as an actual integer column, and so it didn't show up at all. So just making sure that your data is all in place and all formatted. So one of the things, another suggestion that I would have as I scroll down, like North Korea, we just don't have some data from them. So sometimes there'll be like a dash. Just go and delete those so that you just have no data points. This can also be an activity where you get kids to go back in. You can draw information from the CIA World Fact Book. You can draw information from the Population Reference Bureau and try and fill in some of those columns and see if you can fill in spots. I know quite a few countries, so like Monaco, Nauru, North Korea, San Marino, they've got some empty spots. And that just goes into how well documented those indicators are by the countries. So let's actually make some maps. So I'm going to close that. Just for reference on my screen here, I've already got the data table downloaded. So if you're going to be trying to follow along, just get that downloaded, get it to a spot where you can easily find it. And then I'm going to eliminate that into my ArcGIS account. And I just go to an empty map. So this is the standard screen that you get. And first thing we're going to do is we have to actually bring in our data. So again, my data is just sitting in the table right here on my screen or on my desktop. So to bring in the data, I can just drag and drop by just grabbing it and dropping it on there. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. Kind of depends on your browser. But the main way that you add data is just go add layer from file. Then you just got to find it. And I just named it as Human Development Index. It shows up as a CSV, so that's exactly what I want. And I hit open. It's going to say, yes, that's a CSV, import the layer. Now it's going to ask you for some things. Right away, it's thinking that, so now this is ArcGIS trying to figure out what data that you've got actually in this CSV that you're pulling in, that it can use to actually place the data on the map. So it defaults to coordinates, which I don't have coordinates on there, so that's not going to work. So I'm going to say import it as an address or place. Now, if you don't do this step, you get somehow 100 dots all over the United States, and they're all wrong. So instead, click on the little drop-down menu and change this to world. So now it knows that you are picking out location somewhere in the world, not somewhere in the United States. And this is where I got to use this first column. So where it's country name, I just click on this little not used, and it opens up a drop-down menu. And I say, this is the country. And then after that, all you do is hit add layer. Is everyone with me so far? At this point, am I going too fast? Okay, I'm not seeing any response on the chat. So now what I've got is somewhat unhelpful, is all of my dots are placed on the country, and it just went and it assigned colors by alphabetical order. This really doesn't help us that much. But if you click on the dot, our pop-up shows up. And so the pop-up is just the name of the country, and then gives us all of these indicators. Just for fun, you can kind of play around with it. So you can see, all right, let's organize it by mean years of schooling, and it will give different size circles to the different years of schooling. So that's not super helpful. Just for this activity, I'm actually just going to stick with rank to start. And I'm just going to do a simple single symbol. So we're going to change this up later. So I'm not too worried about this yet. The next step you're going to do is we got to bring in the layer which we're actually going to join this data to. So this one, we're going to bring in a shape file from a pre-made layer. So if you go to add, search for layers, it'll automatically bring up your contents. And if you do in the little drop down menu and switch it to ArcGIS Online, and then in the search bar, search for countries. And these bring up a couple of the layers. These are all of the public layers that are available. And for the sake of this activity, everything is kind of geared towards this one layer that is the world countries generalized. And all you do is you click on it and say add to the map. And you've got this, I don't know, I would call that peach maybe, layer of peach shaped files, which now if you click on them, it says, all right, this is Greenland. And Jim, to answer your question earlier, this is where, so not for Greenland, this is where I got the join names, is by clicking on the layer. So to get the join names, again, that was kind of trial and error. I did the join the first time, and the countries that failed, I had to go back and I had to see what they were actually listed as. So Russia, for example, is listed as the Russian Federation, whereas to get it on the map, it's listed just as Russia. So that's where that came in. And side note on this is Shauna is recording, and hopefully that will be made available. So if you do get lost here and you want to go back and see how I did different things, the recording is always going to be helpful on that. So anyway, right now I've got this world countries generalized and the human development index, nothing too exciting yet. And so now we're going to do our join. And how you do that is we have to use the analysis menu. So if you're logged in, you should be able to do this. So in the analysis menu, open that up, and it should be in the summarize data. And we have this option to join features. When we click on that, we get this whole big menu that we're going to ignore most of it. But the biggest part is we need to choose our target layer. Our target layer is going to be the world countries generalized, this shape file that we just pulled in. And we are choosing the layer to join to that, and that's going to be our human development index layer. So it's basically we are telling ArcGIS to take that layer and add it to that layer. Now here's where some of that other work comes in, is in, I guess, topic 3 here. You have to say, choose the fields to match. And I open up this menu, and this is our target layer. So they've already listed everything as country. And then I have to select the join field, and this is where that join layer comes in, or that join column comes in. And so I say, I want country to equal country join. And I'm saying those are the ones that are actually going to match up. So that's what you need to match up. Join 1-to-1, that's fine. And then change this, or change the name of it to something that you can easily find. So I'm calling this HDI test, and then I'm just going to throw my initials on it. And I've already got a file set aside where I can save these. One of the big steps that you need to do, if you don't do this, you'll potentially mess up your entire join, is make sure you unclick this little box that says use current map extent. Just out of habit, whenever I do any activity like this with my students, I always have them show credits, and it'll kind of run through itself and say, all right, this is how many credits this join actually will take up. And this one, I think it's something like they're joining 443 features. So it's going to take up like 0.433 credits. Yeah, 443 credits. So this is a good way as a teacher, as you're guiding students along with this. If I know that it's supposed to be 0.443 credits, and little Johnny in the back has 4,000 credits that this is going to eat up, obviously they did something, and I'm going to stop something before they crash the whole system. So it's just a good check-in measure to make sure that students aren't completely off base. So as long as you're on 0.443 credits and you've got this box unchecked, you can hit run analysis, and it's going to start the join process. Now, depending on your internet speed, it will take a little bit to actually do the join. The more features, the longer the join takes, but we'll see what it comes up with. Usually when I've tested this so far, it's been right around like 25 to 30 seconds. So we'll see. I haven't done this on Zoom yet.
Say being on Zoom is going to slow it a little bit. So
yeah. Especially since Jill is working upstairs from home. All the universities are still home. So I know we've kind of been sharing bandwidth here over the last couple of days. All right, so it looks like it's finishing up. It goes away for a minute, comes back, and now we've got these blue layers. So you'll notice a couple things don't show up. So Greenland doesn't show up because Greenland is not a country. It's part of a country. Antarctica. And then another one that will probably not show up for you is French Guiana because it's part of France, Puerto Rico because it's part of the United States, and then the Canaries that are part of Spain. So it's just how it works. I suppose, yeah, you could mess around with that a little bit, but I didn't want to get it too complex here. So now I can just turn off all of these. One thing that I notice is I really don't like my base map. This is one where you're going through and you're making maps. You kind of have to see how your base map actually works with your data. Since I'm not doing anything really with physical geography, and I really just want to focus on the countries, just to clear things up and make my maps as readable as possible, I'm going to switch my base map over real quick to light gray canvas. So now it's just easy to see. These are the areas that I'm looking at. and then these areas aren't being examined. So far so good. I'm hoping, as long as I'm not hearing anyone really crying out that I'm messing them up, we can kind of go on here. Perfect. All right, so now what we can do with this is, granted this map is not super exciting yet, so on the layer it's highlighted. If it's not highlighted, you can hover your mouse over it, and then this little option to change style will pop up, and you can click on that. And I'm going to say I want this to show, where'd it go? The Human Development Index. And what it's going to do is say, all right, now we can show Human Development Index, and it's going to automatically sort them out based on Human Development Index. And it's going to be the darker colors as the higher Human Development scores. And you can do this with all of them. So life expectancy at birth. And again, the darker it is, the longer the life expectancy. And since we were actually able to switch around GNI, for the gross national income, just make sure that you're always selecting the counts and amounts. And again, the darker, generally the wealthier. But we're going to start off with Human Development Index on this. And I'm going to change this layer in particular. This one will help, especially if you're doing, like if you're teaching this as part of the development unit in human geography. And you're trying to identify like more developed countries, less developed countries, or you're trying to identify based on Rostow's model of development or Wallerstein's model of development. So the UN has actually put together this guide for the Human Development Report. And the piece of information that I read through this and pulled out was what are the actual qualifications for the different levels. And we're going to plug those in just to make the map work a little bit better. How you plug those in is back in your layer. You just hit options and you've got this bar up here. And right now I'm really only showing 2 breaks. And I'm going to say classify data, and I want 4 breaks. And I'm going to switch it to manual breaks because I'm going to set what the breaks are. And then you've got this bar. It tells you your lowest score overall is a 0.37. Your highest score is a 0.95. And we want to set the breaks based on what we pulled out from the very high development, that anything above 800 is this category of very high development. So all I do is I click on this and I say 0.8. And now that's set. And our next level is 700 to 0.799. So this one is supposed to be 0.7. And then the bottom level, oops, of course it's that one, anything under 0.550. So I just need to set that at 0.550. Now, if you want, you can always change the symbology or the coloration. Just based off cartographic principles, darker is almost always supposed to mean more. So that's what we're going to stick with. And when we're dealing with countries, this is an important note that I always like to throw out for cartographic principles. Try to avoid using red. Because students typically will associate red with bad. So I always like to use some variant of blue. I want to try, so another one is avoid the what we call the Christmas tree, where you've got all these different colors where there doesn't seem like much of a logical connection between them. But I kind of like this green, and right now it's flipped. All I have to do is hit this, and suddenly now we've got it so that the darkest green will be the most. And so that's how our map shows up. So yeah, we're going to go with that one. And then I hit OK, and I hit done. And so now we have this HDI test Now we're going to do something real quick just to make things easier in just a moment. Is if you see this little more options, click on it, go down a little bit and say rename. And I'm just going to rename this as HDI. All right. Now, so right now, great. We've got one map, but now we got to start thinking about what can we actually do for the actual display for the dashboard. Because of the way the dashboard works, it operates based on layers. So you can't really change the map within the dashboard too easily if all of the data is just encompassed in one layer. So I'm going to show you how that you basically can take this exact layer and replicate it a couple times to the point that you've got multiple layers that will work in your dashboard. So to do that, all you should have to do is go add, search for layers, and you're going to be searching in your contents this time. And, oh, I forgot a step. Sorry. In this, or back in the contents, save your layer. So it's saving it, it's putting it into the contents. And now when you do search for layers, you should just be able to search HDI. And there it is. So HDI test. And I'm going to say add it again. So now I can turn off HDI test. And I'm going to change this one, again, using the same one. This one's up to you, so you can choose which one you want to do. I'm going to change this layer to show, let's do life expectancy at birth. The color ramp, I'm going to get away from the green. I'm going to say that the green is my HDI, so I'm just going to switch this to, let's get a good purple. Okay. Done. And I'm going to rename this layer as life expectancy. And then one more time, I'm going to hit add, search for layers, searching for HDI. That same layer shows up again, and I'm going to say add it again. And this time I'm going to change it to, let's do mean years of schooling. And again, all right, shows up. Oh, it automatically showed up as green. I don't want that. I just confused myself with it. So purple's already used. Let's go with pink. That's different enough. So now we've got 3 different layers. I need to rename this one as mean years of schooling. So I've got 3 different layers: mean years of schooling, life expectancy, and HDI. So now we should be ready to actually start. So yeah, you can put them on top of each other and you can start analyzing them that way. But now we're actually going to bring these into the operations dashboards. In order to do that, you're going to have to save your map. I'm going to save it as HDI test. And then you always have to give it a tag. So I'm just going to use the tag HDI. Not going to bother with the summary right now, and save it. Let it save for a second. And then, so on the website, I have this little icon for operations dashboard. You can click on that and it'll open up the main page for ArcGIS dashboards. and say launch ArcGIS dashboards. As long as you're logged in and you've got your login information, it should take you automatically to the dashboard. It might have you sign in again if you need to, but otherwise it should automatically log you in with your ArcGIS credentials. I already have one set aside, but I'm just going to create a new one. And I'm going to call this one HDI test. I'm going to call the tags HDI again. And then in a perfect world, I'd have more of a summary and build up some more of the background information. But in the interest of time, we're just going to say create dashboard. And what you get is this blank screen that's got nothing on it yet. So we have to go through and add things. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a map. So you use the little plus symbol on the top here and hit plus map. And it automatically pulls from your ArcGIS account because you're logged in the same place. This is where that back work of going in and actually saying or adding these different layers is going to be helpful. I'm going to start off with the Human Development Index. So Human Development Index by country. Oh, these are some of my older ones, but this works. So HDI by country. As I'm adding the map, yes, I want a legend. Yes, I want people to be able to search. Yes, I want people to be able to zoom in and out. Then you've got some other things that you can get people to do just to help out. I'm going to say Human Development Index, just so as people are reading your dashboard, they know what they're looking at. And I can hit done. And now I'm going to have this one map here. And HDI will show up. This is a map that I'd done earlier. And so it actually has the HDI displayed as its label. So now I'm going to add another map because I want to be able to compare some of these different indicators. So I'm going to hit plus, add another map. And oh, there's my HDI test for GIS map. I'm going to say, yes, let's do the HDI test for GIS, add that map. And again, I want legend, I want layer visibility on this one, search and zoom in and out. And this one, I'm not going to add a title to. And just hit done. So now they're going to show up side by side, theoretically. And in this one, since I added the layer visibility, you can go into it and you can turn on and off different layers. So I want this one showing life expectancy for now. So I'm gonna move this one, and it's just a simple drag and drop. So what I just did there is in the top corner of the editing screen, I said drag item, and I docked it as a row. I'm gonna add one more map, and it's gonna be the same one. And again, I'm going to do the layer visibility, the search, and the zoom in and out, and I want my legend again. So now I've got 3 maps. And I don't want 3 maps. That's getting my screen a little crowded. So I'm just going to say drag this one. And I'm actually going to stack these items. So now, what is this one showing? This one is showing, I open up my legend. Okay, this one is showing life expectancy. So on the bottom here, I'm going to change this type, or the map of this type, the title of this map to life expectancy. And then this map, I'm going to change it so that it shows mean years of schooling. So I can close that and show mean years of schooling. Okay. So, oh, how did I get the HDI numbers to display? So Jim, how you can do that, you actually have to go back to your map itself. And in here, you just say, see, create labels. And I want the label to be HDI. So there it'll show up. So that's how that works. So you can play around with that. But one more thing that we're going to add here. So there's a whole bunch of things you can add. If you want to add pie charts, go for it. It's really whatever your data allows you to. But I want to add a list of the different countries. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to be adding a list of the human development indexes. And since we've got 194 countries, we're going to change that so that there are 194. And when we say sort, I want it to sort by the Human Development Index. And I want it ascending. So, oh no, not Human Development Index. I want it to sort by country name. There we go. Just so that people can more easily pick out the countries. Obviously, right now, nothing's showing up. So how you have to do that is in the list, you click on this little menu and it'll add in the countries. So in my list organization or in my list options, again, I just clicked on list and then it's this little menu. Another thing, since just the number or just the name of the country isn't the most helpful, I'm going to also add the HDI. And so now it shows up the name of the country and the HDI score. And then I'm just going to change the title so that this is HDI, nope, sorry, name, Human Development Index of countries. And I'm going to add an action real quick. So the actions was, I'm going to add an action to have it flash on human development by index, and then each of my maps. And then I'm also going to have an action of zooming for all three maps. So I'll show you what this does in just a sec, but just for now, trust me, add the actions. It's something super cool. And then I'm just going to say done. So now I've got this list. I don't need the list to be that big, so I'm just going to pull it back. And now I've got two maps. One of them is showing HDI. One of them, right now I'm on mean years of schooling. So someone in the chat box, throw the name of a country out. Whoever's first gets it. Not getting anything here. There we go, China. All right. So alphabetically going, I just got to go find China. And here it is. So all I have to do is click on China. And because of my actions, the map automatically zooms to it and it flashes it so that I can see where China is. So same kind of deal for like Gabon, is it'll zoom and it'll go right in on China. Obviously, I just have shades of pink here, so I might want to throw on the actual legend here. So you can actually go between countries. So you can kind of match them up and you see, oh, Gabon has got pretty good human development index and it's got pretty good mean years of schooling. Iraq, on the other hand, so it's got a 0.69, and you can see that a lot of these colors match up with each other. So save it, call it good. The last thing that I'm going to do is add a header. And I'm just going to, this should be my title. And I'm just going to call this Human Development Indicators by country, just so you're telling your audience what you're looking at. And now you've got a title. And once you save it again, so it's all saved now. In order to actually publish it and make it so that people can view it, besides just the owner, you need to go to the dashboard item details. And then just hit share and make it so that it's public. And now it will give you a link in theory. Oh, the link. And I can copy that, paste it into the chat box, and now all of you should be able to see it. So a different map that I made when I had more time to play around with it. So if you go back to the materials website and you click on Human Development Index Dashboard, this is one where I was able to add a little bit more layers, add a little bit more to it to make it so that it was a lot more user-friendly. So just for reference, I've got a couple of different layers on here. So right now it's HDI versus HDI. And I can change the layer. I want it to show life expectancy at birth. And I've got the labels on for everything. So just like I'd shown before. And just for reference, I've got the global average that students can compare to. So that being said, I guess I really did not follow my PowerPoint at all. So that's the dashboard. The great thing about dashboards is you can communicate a lot of different data. You can get students basically looking at the relationships that you want. And so that's kind of what the genius of the Johns Hopkins one is it's really getting you to look at the data that they want you to look at. So what is the information that's helpful for tracking COVID is we need to know how many total cases there are, which countries have it the worst. They can, again, track deaths by country, and then they can look at how is this changing over time. So you're getting them to look at the data that you want them to, because otherwise as a spreadsheet, this is probably overwhelming, especially considering that they're getting into each individual county of the United States. How I would envision fitting this in is as a larger part of a project. So sure, you can have students just make this dashboard about HGI and they're learning and they're getting a chance to look at some of the relationships. But if you can fit it into a larger project idea, I particularly like the geo inquiry from National Geographic. The dashboard is a great way to visualize your data. And you can do this at different scales. So the example that I used today was global. You could very easily, I know that there are quite a few layers out there showing just Minnesota counties. You can organize data by Minnesota county. You can organize by census block if you really want to. All of that information is available on ArcGIS. And so it's just really how do you want to collect your data and actually organize it. So I just have some suggestions in here. I know I'm kind of running out of time. But again, one of the great things about this is it really gives you a chance to use authentic data. And so, and you're making it very interactive. So that should be your focus. So further suggestions, I posted some things, including a recent article by Charlie Fitzpatrick showing how you can teach with storyboards and dashboards. And then the geo inquiry member or the geo inquiry training and all that. But I just want to give the last minute or so here for any questions that anybody has. I know I'm not leaving a whole bunch of time here.
Thanks for running through that process. I got confused not the dashboard one, but the joining layer one is a great one, especially if you've got centroid data and you want to turn it into choropleth data. It's really cool because you can find those layers to join to that have whether it's states or counties or whatever, you can join at just about any level. So that, yep. I really appreciate that. The video will be very helpful to have.
Yeah, Minnesota Department of Health has a whole bunch. Most Minnesota counties are open data now, so you can get data from just about any county. So Are there any other questions, comments, concerns, compliments, or cries of outrage?
Kyle, do you ever have students do this work, or is this something you would set up and then have students
So
work off of it?
something new. I've had them do joins and stuff like that before. This type of activity actually would take about 1 block period to get through. Based on the students that I've worked with in the past. If you've got students who are a little bit more tech deficient, it might take you a little bit longer. So, any other questions? I threw my email up here. If you have any questions, say I did something that completely threw you for a loop and you want to ask more about it, I would be happy to. I am a geo mentor, and although I'm not in Minnesota anymore, I still maintain my connections there. So I'd be happy to help.
Now it doesn't matter if you're in Omaha or Minnesota, you can beam into anybody.
Yep. Yep.
I just want to say thank you, Kyle. That was super fun to watch. It's just so powerful, and it takes time to learn how to do this, but boy, just keep plugging at it, and pretty soon.
And with us living in the era of big data and stuff freely available, if you can find the data and you're able to find a really good data source and you want to think, how can I use this with my students? Doing the joins and then the dashboards can be a great way of interacting with that data.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. I am noticing it is 3 o'clock and we need to head over to our final session. So again, thank you so much, Kyle. This was great. And everybody, the video will be available and we will be posting it on the site and let you know where it's at. So
All right.
thank you so much, Kyle.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.